Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back here to the full story on WYAB 103.9 as we get into this first day, first show of the year. And it's not how we wanted to start out with the year with several, well, at least one confirmed attack in our neighbor, New Orleans, and other tragedies around the country as well, with a explosion in Las Vegas of a truck, as well as some fireworks explosions actually in Hawaii as well. So let's get into the what we know so far about the attack in New Orleans, as far as everything that we've gotten in the just over 24 hours now that it has occurred. As of course, everything we talk about when we go in is is just information that's coming as it gets in. So it's as always, things change, things as we learn. But I want to go over what we know so far. Again, this is called the full story for a reason. We want to at least give you the facts as they are coming in, as we are getting them. I'm not going to cover too much on facts that are being circulated. There's a lot of anytime you have tragedies or crimes of or terrorist acts such as these, you have a lot of unconfirmed facts that circle around, and some of these unconfirmed facts do in turn turn out to be true, and some of them do not. So I want to talk about the ones that we at least know so far, or at least have inklings of. So authorities say the driver of a pickup truck sped through a crowd of pedestrians gathered in New Orleans' bustling French Quarter district early on New Year's Day, killing at least 15 people and injuring about 30 others. Initially, it was 10 people that rose to 15. Several people are still in the hospital. We hope that number doesn't go up. The suspect was also killed in a shootout with police right afterwards. The FBI is investigating the attack as an act of terrorism and said it does not believe the driver acted alone. So here's FBI Special Agent in Charge, Assistant Special Agent in Charge, Alethea Duncan, at a press conference yesterday.
The FBI, we are working with our partners to investigate this as an act of terrorism. We're aggressively running down all the leads to identify the possible subject associates. We're working to ensure that there is no further threat. We do not believe that Jabbar was solely responsible. We're aggressively running down every lead, including those of his known associates. That's why we need the public's help. We are asking if anybody has any interactions with Samsoud Jabbar in the last 72 hours that you contact us. The FBI is asking the public's help. We're asking anyone who has information, video, or pictures to provide it to the FBI. We have set up a digital tip line as well as our 1-800 number, 1-800-CALL-FBI. Please provide us any information that can assist us in this investigation. Once again, thank you for your patience and assistance.
Okay, so there is that's the such a special agent in charge. Obviously, like I said, a lot of things are still unknown about it as we're trying to figure out this guy. But key things here is that they already know, the FBI already knows that this is being investigated as a terror attack, and that he did not act alone, which is something we haven't they haven't come out that strong in a lot of investigations in previous times. With the assassination of Donald Trump, for instance, they never really came out saying, oh, he was alone, not alone. Here they immediately come out saying, we know he's not acting alone, which is why it's so important for people to reach out to the FBI or their police agencies, because this is still an active threat. As long as he has co-conspirators that are still out there, it is an active threat. It isn't, to me, an ongoing crime. Until his co-conspirators can be apprehended, can be taken down, what have you, it is a continuing crime. So that tells you a lot right there as far as, and that's from the assistant special agent in charge there in the FBI field office, about what is how this is unfolding. So Wednesday's attack unfolded on Bourbon Street, and large crowds gathered in the city as well as they gathered in the city for the college football playoff quarterfinal at the Sugar Bowl that had been scheduled for yesterday, that has now been postponed until today. So police said the driver steered around a police blockade and raced through a crowd along Bourbon Street around 3:15 a.m. Wednesday as revelers gathered to celebrate the new year. As I said, at least 15 people are killed and about 30 injured. 2 police officers were also wounded, and a shootout with the suspect were in stable condition. Investigators found multiple improvised explosives, including 2 pipe bombs that were concealed within coolers and wired for remote detonation, according to the Louisiana State Police Intelligence Bulletin. The bulletin, relying on preliminary information gathered soon after the attack, also cited surveillance footage that said it showed 3 men and a woman placing one of the devices, but federal officials did not immediately confirm that detail, and it wasn't clear who they were or what connection they had to the attack. But again, if you have 3 men and a woman placing explosives around the city, this was obviously planned to, since we know that there are explosives within this truck, this rented truck. I believe is also an electric truck, which is going to be interesting when we talk about the cyber truck that was used in Las Vegas a little bit later. But this was obviously planned to be a much, much larger attack. For some reason, it did not go through. Unfortunately, he still killed 15 people, but this was planned to be something much larger. There's obviously explosives, car bomb, what have you, inside the vehicle, as well as placed around Bourbon Street. The timing of it is interesting, being that it was that late or that early, I guess, 3:15 a.m. A lot of people, it's still Bourbon Street, so a lot of people are still on Bourbon Street, but it wouldn't have been as many if they did it at 1 a.m., for instance. But this is obviously planned to be something much larger. Why that plan failed is going to be something that's interesting to see. Was it the fact that their bombs didn't work out? Did he plan just to pull the truck in and then explode it, but that didn't work, so he decided just to accelerate and then kill as many people as he could? But like I said, he drove the rented pickup truck onto a sidewalk going around a police car that was positioned to block vehicular traffic. A barrier system meant to prevent vehicle attacks was being repaired in preparation for the Super Bowl in February. Zion Parsons, who's 18 and from Gulfport, Mississippi, said he saw the truck barreling through, throwing people like a movie scene, throwing people in the air. He said bodies all the way up and down the street, everybody screaming and hollering. Parsons, whose friend Nikra Dudro was among the people killed. Jabbar was killed by police, like I said, after he exited the truck and opened fire on responding officers. A photo circulated among law enforcement officials showed a bearded Jabbar wearing camouflage next to the truck after he was killed. And I have seen this photograph. I will not share it on the if you're watching live, or if you're watching this on YouTube or Rumble. I'm not going to show that photo to you, but I have seen the photo. It is definitely him. He is wearing camouflage. He's right outside. It looks to me like the New Orleans Police Department did a pretty excellent job of taking him out. He's dead right next to the truck. There's also looks like to be bullet holes in the side of the truck where someone was trying to stop him while he was driving. But it looks like the New Orleans Police Department did a pretty good job of taking him out as soon as they could. He didn't get far after leaving that vehicle. Investigators recovered a handgun and an AR-style rifle, according to a law enforcement official who was not authorized to discuss the investigation publicly and spoke on a condition of anonymity. New Orleans Police Superintendent Ann Kirkpatrick said that this is not just an act of terrorism, this is evil. And we have one other eyewitness report that I got, that I found I want to share with you as well. If I want to say, if I pull that up.
The guy in the pickup truck just punched the gas and mowed over the barricade and hit a pedicab passengers. And there were just bodies and the screams. I mean, you can't think about unhear that. It was chaos and very, very scary. I remember the screeching and him gunning the car and the impact and the screams. Like I said, the screams of those girls. I mean, yeah. I don't know that I'll be able to forget that.
So there you have, again, an eyewitness account of the horrific acts that happened that happened on, well, I guess technically yesterday morning, right after New Year's. Okay, we're going to take our first break right here. When we get back, we're going to talk more about the driver himself, Shamsun Din Jabbar, or as far as who he is, and what we know about him as we gather more information, as well as, like I said, hopefully we gather more information about his accomplices as well. If you want to call in during the break, number 601-879-0002, but keep it tuned here to The Full Story on WYAB 103.9. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back here to The Full Story on WYAB 103.9 as we continue to talk about the terrorist attack down in New Orleans. And I want to talk now about the perpetrator himself, who he is, what affiliations he has, possible motivations that we currently know. So the FBI said the driver was 42-year-old Shamsun Din Bahar Jabbar, a U.S. citizen and Army veteran from Texas. A flag representing the Islamic State group was found on the vehicle's trailer hitch, according to the FBI. The Bureau said it's trying to determine if Jabbar was associated with any terrorist organizations or, for instance, he was just inspired by them. Those are two different things. We're going to talk more about the Islamic State in just a little bit, because the Islamic State as an organization is very isn't as organized as it once was, as well as there's a lot of people who just use the ISIS or Islamic State, whatever you want to call them, as inspiration or to invoke their kind of ideology. Think of someone like skinheads, for instance, who wave a Nazi flag but have no affiliation, obviously, with the Nazis. They don't even exist anymore. So those are two separate things that to see, hey, what exactly is his affiliation? He at least had, like I said, a group of people. Does he have his own cell, for instance? Those are the types of things that we're gonna have to try to figure out. Jabbar had posted videos to social media hours before the carnage, saying he was inspired by the Islamic State group and expressed a desire to kill, according to President Biden. Jabbar enlisted in the Army in March of 2007, working in both human resources and information technology. He deployed to Afghanistan from February 2009 to January 2010, then transferred to the U.S. Army Reserves in 2015. Jabbar served until July 2020, leaving the Army with the rank of Staff Sergeant. Court records show Jabbar faced a deteriorating financial situation in 2022 while separating from his then wife. Jabbar said he was $27,000 behind on house payments, acclimated $16,000 in credit card debt, and wanted to quickly finalize the divorce. In January 2022, in an email to his now ex-wife's attorney, he wrote, "I have exhausted all means of bringing the loan current other than a loan modification, leaving us no alternative but to sell the house or allow it to go into foreclosure." At the time, court documents show he made about $10,000 a month doing business development and other work for the consulting firm Deloitte, which is a big accounting firm as well. In a statement, Deloitte said Jabbar had served in a staff-level role since being hired in 2021, and the company was doing all it could to arrest authorities. So he had a pretty well-paying job if he's getting $10,000 a month. So, again, authorities found guns and pipe bombs in the suspect's vehicle. The devices were concealed within coolers and wired for remote detonation with a remote control that was also found in the vehicle. So, again, that makes me wonder if this was originally meant to be parked and then exploded rather than to run through people. And then something, it wouldn't be the first time because they don't know how to make bombs. It wouldn't be the first time that this guy was not a bomb technician. He didn't do that in the Army. Again, he was what we call in the Army an S1, who just does, again, leave requests, pay stuff, or basic pay stuff, things like that. He wasn't an EOD or anything, so he didn't have the knowledge to build bombs, I would imagine, outside of what he maybe could have found on the internet. And obviously, not the best information comes from there. So it wouldn't be the first time they tried to build a bomb and it just didn't go off. Now, as far as who was in the crowd, authorities said Bourbon Street was filled with revelers toasting the start of 2025. Crowds in New Orleans also ballooned in anticipation of the Sugar Bowl college football game between number 2 Georgia and number 3 Notre Dame. So you may have had more people there than you normally would just because a lot of people were visiting New Orleans in anticipation of that football game. As far as protections for pedestrians on Bourbon Street, there's been a lot of discussion with this. City documents show New Orleans has been in the midst of a major project to remove and replace post-like barriers called bollards designed to prevent vehicle attacks along Bourbon Street. The project began in November and revolves replacing old bollards with new removable stainless steel ones. So this is in that transition period. And again, there was, in this case, a police vehicle blocking off the street, and he just drove around the vehicle. We don't know if anybody was in that police vehicle at the time, but again, it's not much you can do if you're in that police vehicle. Someone just pulls around you outside of try to react as he then starts accelerating as you heard the witness talk about there, accelerating down the sidewalk. And there's not much that police officer could have done in that situation. As far as there have been other attacks involving vehicles, Wednesday's attack in New Orleans is the latest example of a vehicle being used as a weapon to carry out mass violence. The trend has alarmed law enforcement officials because such attacks can be difficult to protect against. Last month, a 50-year-old Saudi doctor plowed into a Christmas market teeming with holiday shoppers in the German city of Magdeburg, killing 4 women and a 9-year-old boy. And we've seen this. We see this a lot we've seen this type of attack a lot in Europe in the last few years. And again, this one, however, to me screams last-ditch effort. They're running through people. This seems to me like it was much more planned to be a coordinated truck bomb or car bomb with other bombs lined the street. As they talk about, they found other explosive devices planted by several other individuals. So this, to me, seems like it was originally meant to be a much larger attack. And for whatever reason, it failed, and then the running through people was the last-ditch effort. So both President Biden and President-elect Trump have responded. President Biden said on Wednesday there is no justification for what he called the horrific attack. And here he is at the beginning of that. I'll play a little bit of the start of his press conference.
Good evening. I know I speak for all Americans when I say our hearts with the people of New Orleans after the despicable attack that occurred in the early morning hours. To all the families of those who were killed, to all those who were injured, to all the people of New Orleans who are grieving today, I want you to know I grieve with you. Our nation grieves with you. We're going to stand with you as you mourn and as you heal in the weeks to come. I want to thank our brave first responders and law enforcement personnel who stopped the attacker in his tracks before he could kill or injure even more people. I want to thank you to everyone at the Department of Homeland Security, the Department of Justice, including the FBI, working non-stop to investigate this heinous act. The FBI is leading the investigation to determine what happened, why it happened, whether there was any continuing threat to public safety. Here's what we know so far. The FBI has reported to me the killer was an American citizen, born in Texas. He served in the United States Army on active duty for many years. He also served in the Army Reserve until a few years ago. The FBI also reported to me that mere hours before the attack, he posted videos on social media indicating that he was inspired by ISIS, expressing the desire to kill. The ISIS flag was found in his vehicle, which he rented to conduct this attack. Possible explosives were found in the vehicle as well. And more explosives were found nearby. The situation is very fluid, and the investigation has a preliminary stage. And the fact is that right now, excuse me. There you go. The law enforcement and intelligence community continue to look for any connections, associations, or co-conspirators. We have nothing additional to report at this time. The investigation continues to be active, and no one should jump to conclusions. I've directed my Attorney General, the FBI Director, the Secretary of Homeland Security, the head of the National Counterterrorism Center, and the intelligence community to work on this intensively until we have full and complete information. And once we have that information, I will share the information as soon as we can confirm it. Additionally, we're tracking the explosion of a Cybertruck outside the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas. Law enforcement and the intelligence community are investigating this as well, including whether there's any possible connection with the attack in New Orleans. Thus far, there's nothing to report on that score at this time. I directed my team to make sure every resource is made available to federal, state, and local law enforcement to complete the investigation in New Orleans quickly and to make sure there's no remaining threat to the American people. We'll support the people of New Orleans as they begin the hard work of healing. New Orleans is a place unlike any other place in the world.
Okay, I'll stop it. I'll stop it right there. We all know how great New Orleans is, but he was obviously had some more issues with his teleprompter. If you're watching live, you can see how he was struggling with that. And when his teleprompter, I guess, went out for a second, still has trouble talking as well. But he covered a lot of the facts with just that. We're going to cover the Cybertruck attack in just a moment. I want to talk about the Islamic State group first, and then we'll get into the Cybertruck attack. But President-elect Donald Trump also weighed on the tragedy when he posted on True Social, saying, "Our hearts are with all the innocent victims and their loved ones, including the brave officers of New Orleans Police Department. The Trump administration will fully support the city of New Orleans as they investigate and recover from this act of pure evil." And they better be getting their boots dirty because in what is it? I guess we're 18 days now. Things are going to change. Things are going to change quite a bit, and we're going to talk about ISIS and the attacks they've had. And you'll notice a particular instance of when they were not active, a particular time. So we're going to cover that after the break. If you're going to call in during the break, you can call in at 601-879-0002. But keep it tuned to the full story on WYAB 103.9. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back here to the full story on WYAB 103.9 as we get into the next thing I want to talk about with this is ISIS itself, because something we haven't heard about in a while. But again, this is the flag that was flown behind the truck in the hitch was, in fact, this ISIS flag, and it's the black banner. I'm sure if you can remember it with all the Islamic writing on it. And so the investigation is to look into any support or inspiration that Shamsun Jabbar may have drawn from the violent Middle East-based group, or from any of at least 19 affiliated groups nationwide. Routed from its self-proclaimed caliphate in Syria and Iraq by a U.S. military-led coalition more than 5 years ago, that happened to be during Donald Trump's presidency, the Islamic State group has focused on seizing territory in the Middle East more than staging massive al-Qaeda-style attacks in the West recently. But in its home territory, the Islamic State group has welcomed any chance to behead Americans and other foreigners who come within its reach. And it has had success, although abated in recent years, and inspiring people around the world who are drawn to its ideology to carry out ghastly attacks on innocent civilians. Again, ISIS was a breakaway group from Al-Qaeda. The leader, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, had seized multiple amounts of territory in Iraq and Syria in 2014. By 2019, a U.S.-led military intervention had driven the Islamic State group from its last inch of its territory. Al-Baghdadi killed himself and 2 children near him, tells you what kind of coward he was, that same year, detonating an explosive vest as U.S. forces closed in on him. So the New Orleans rampage reflects the deadliest Islamic State group-inspired attack on U.S. soil in several years. Other attacks over the last decade include a 2014 shooting rampage by a husband and wife team who killed 14 people in San Bernardino, California, and a 2016 massacre at a gay nightclub in Orlando, Florida, by a gunman who fatally shot 49 people, who pledged his allegiance on a 911 call to al-Baghdadi in rage against the filthy ways of the West. Those attacks coincided with an influx of thousands of Westerners, some of them Americans, who traveled to Syria in hopes of joining the so-called caliphate. In the aftermath of those killings, the threat from radicalized followers of the group had appeared to wane in the U.S. However, but over the last year, FBI's officials have warned about a significantly elevated threat of international terrorism following Hamas's rampage in Israel in October of 2023. And the Site Intelligence Group reported ISIS supporters celebrating in online chat groups Wednesday. And they're saying, if it's a brother, he's a legend, Allahu Akbar. So, again, interestingly enough, this group attacked during Obama's time. There was, during Donald Trump's time, we forced the leader to commit suicide. And then now under Biden, they're attacking again, or people affiliated or inspired by them are attacking again. 19 days cannot come soon enough, or 18 days cannot come soon enough, as we can return to safety and security in this country. And again, all of these things, they didn't happen under Donald Trump. It's just amazing. It's hard to remember that time. But as I just mentioned, these last attacks during ISIS was during Obama. If you remember Obama's red line, that didn't happen. But it was Donald Trump who got in there and forced ISIS out, was able to have Baghdadi kill himself. But now, of course, it's very interesting in Syria because their leader recently fled to Russia. Another militant group has now taken over Syria. That's not ISIS, but still a militant group. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out, as well as all of this is, that was Bashar al-Assad, as all of this is playing out. But this wasn't the only explosion or anything that there were people that were killed. So firework mortars and camp fuel canisters were found stuffed inside the back of a Tesla Cybertruck that exploded outside President-elect Donald Trump's Las Vegas hotel early Wednesday, killing a suspect inside the vehicle and sparking an intense investigation into possible terrorism as well. So if you're watching online, I'll play for you just briefly the video of that explosion. As you can see, there's no sound to it, so it'll just be a couple seconds, but I want to play that for the people watching. As you can see the explosion. It was a huge explosion. So you can see in the explosion, you can see, again, the explosion itself, and then several what appears to be fireworks exploding throughout after the explosion itself. So again, this was in a Tesla Cybertruck that was also rented on the by the company Turo. So if you don't know how Turo works, it's essentially people who can rent their own vehicles. So it's not necessarily it's owned by the same people, but it's very interesting that they both used electric vehicles to do this. So the vehicle used in the New Orleans attack was an F-150, an electric F-150, the F-150 Lightning. I hate calling it the F-150 Lightning because I have an original Lightning that is definitely not electric. But it is an electric truck that was used down there, as well as the Cybertruck that was used in here in Las Vegas. So Las Vegas Metropolitan Police and Clark County Fire Department officials said that a person died inside the pickup truck and 7 people nearby suffered minor injuries. By late Wednesday afternoon, authorities were still working to get the body out of the vehicle and start processing the evidence inside. Jeremy Schwartz, acting special agent in charge for the FBI's Las Vegas field office, said, "Our number one goal is to ensure that we have the proper identification of the subject involved in the incident. Following that, our second objective is to determine whether this was an act of terrorism or not." And again, it's very interesting that both of these were trucks. Both of these involved explosives inside the vehicle. One, unfortunately, didn't have the one didn't actually set off, and unfortunately, he then barreled down the highway. But they both involved vehicles with explosive devices within them. Police Department Sheriff Kevin McHale said authorities know who rented the truck with the Turo app in Colorado, but are not releasing a name until the investigators determine if it is the same person who died. That makes sense. McKeel said there is some information that person who rented it was also someone in the Army. There was some information that came out with that. But again, there's a difference because, we don't know if this person who rented it, you don't want to put out wrong names and have someone else get killed. McKeel said video captured at a Tesla charging stations provided by CEO Elon Musk helped authorities track the vehicle's journey, arriving in Las Vegas around 7:30 a.m., then driving about an hour later into the valet area of the Trump International Hotel, where it sat 15 to 20 seconds before the explosion occurred. Video presented at an afternoon news conference, what I just showed you, showed the explosion and exactly how it happened. People are saying that the construction of the truck itself helped contain the explosion. So the truck itself is a complete stainless steel. It looks like a garbage dumpster, but it's a big stainless steel vehicle, which probably dampened quite a bit the explosion. The explosion itself wasn't the best vehicle for them to choose for a car bomb. Musk said on Wednesday afternoon on X that, quote, "We have now confirmed that the explosion was caused by very large fireworks and our bomb carried in the bed of the rented Cybertruck and is unrelated to the vehicle itself. All vehicle telemetry, I can never say that word, telemetry, there it is, telemetry, I knew I'd figure it out, was positive at the time of the explosion." Musk has, Mahil said, "This is a Tesla truck, and we know that Elon Musk is working with President-elect Trump and its Trump Tower. So there's obviously things to be concerned about and is something we continue to look at." Again, this truck came just hours after the attack. This is 8 a.m. This came just 4 hours, really, 5 hours, 4.5 hours after the attack in New Orleans, which kind of tells me this is not a copycat. This is not someone trying to do an attack. This seems to be possibly related or possibly coordinated between the two of them. Again, preliminary information, nothing's confirmed about any of that, but the coincidences between them is quite, a lot going on here, right? Both rented from the same app, both electric vehicles, both have bombs within them, both happen within hours of each other. Now, one can potentially use as a political statement in front of Trump Tower to try to goad him or try to threaten him, or just using it as a as again as a terrorist act to use it to be used as terror, while the other one was used to try to inflict massive carnage and massive death. So I think two probably different purposes between the two, but as far as one was for, I mean, I guess they're both for message, they're both for terror, but one had the explicit thing of to maximize human death and suffering, and the other one had more to do with sending a message. And so Michiel said, "We are absolutely investigating any connectivity to what happened in New Orleans, as well as other attacks that have been occurring across the world. We aren't ruling anything out." In a statement, Turo said it was working with authorities. The statement said, "We do not believe that either the renter involved in Las Vegas and New Orleans attacks had a criminal background that would have identified them as a security threat." And I don't know what Turo's policies is, and do they not allow you to rent a vehicle if you have a criminal record, which would seem a little excessive. But again, neither one of these guys, I mean, apparently from the information that we know, well, we don't know about the driver of the Cybertruck yet, but as far as Jabbar, the terrorist regarding the New Orleans attack, he had, from what we know, no real criminal. There's a couple of speeding, or there's driving without a license and things like that. No major criminal offenses, no felonies, nothing like that. Again, and what caused his radicalization is something we don't know as well, and what we could have known about this guy beforehand. I mean, sometimes people, we don't have Big Brother. We don't want Big Brother. So it's impossible to tell sometimes how these people, where they come from, or what brings them, what could have prevented something like this from happening, as far as trying to identify these people early. But again, a lot of this information is still coming in. We're still learning a lot about it. The names of the people haven't been released yet. I was going to talk about some of the victims. We run out of time, unfortunately. But we'll start to learn more. So what I'd like to do is, I don't like to focus so much always on the suspect. We need to focus on him because we have to understand how we're going to go from here. But I want to make sure victims are never forgotten. And then that they're not just used as a number. We say 15, but those are 15 human beings. Those are 15 individuals with families and people that care for them. And so I never want to just boil them down to a number. So I like to talk about who they were, the people in their lives, who they affected, and the lights that were taken away from this world by these acts of terror. So that's probably something we're going to do tomorrow as we learn more about some of these individuals. And again, we want to make sure that we share that so they're not just boiled down to that number. All right, we're going to take our last break right here. We'll get back. We'll do This Day in History, but keep it tuned to The Full Story on WYAB 103.9. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back here to The Full Story on WYAB 103.9 as we get to This Day in History. So on this day, January 2nd, 1974, President Richard signed the Emergency Highway Energy Conservation Act, which set the national speed limit at 55 miles per hour. It was in response to the oil crisis of 1973, when OPEC nations reduced oil exports, and 55 miles per hour is the most fuel efficient speed. However, there are many songs written about it. Sammy Hagar wrote about it, and people were generally pretty unhappy with it. So it was repealed in 1995 when the Congress returned the authority to states to set their own speed limits. So it was interesting. If you can remember that, all the cars had the real red F55 on the speedometer. It was a crazy time. All right, that's all we have for you guys today. Again, we'll follow up tomorrow when we get more information about these attacks, as well as talking about the victims. As always, you can find us on regulatorsproductions.com. You can find our past podcast on that, or watch us live. But until I see you again tomorrow, my name is Matthew Bishop, and you have heard The Full Story.